Welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. We have a special Bruins playoff edition episode of Shark and the Dog for you this morning. Happy Wednesday. It feels great to be back in the playoffs. Feels surreal with what this team has brought us the last couple of years. But we're back playing against the Ottawa Senators tonight in Canada. And we have the Shark on the line with us this morning. Good morning, Shark.
What's going on? This is an unbelievable feeling driving into work, nice day. Bruins are fucking back in the playoffs, and it's against the big rival now. Weirdly, Ottawa is now a big rival. We'll go into that once we get into the show. But it's so good to be back. I can't explain how good I feel right now.
Yeah, and let's touch on some of your asinine wants that you were going through this weekend. You actually wanted us to face the Capitals for some ungodly reason. I was just praying the other night when the Maple Leafs were up 2-0 for some kind of miracle. It's just amazing that the Columbus Blue Jackets are on a 6-game skid, down 2-0 in Toronto. All Toronto has to do is hold on for another period and a half, and they completely fall apart to a team that has completely hit the skids in the Columbus Blue Jackets and end up having to play the Washington Capitals. So we were absolutely gifted this series against the Ottawa Senators. It's not going to be a walk in the park because we have had our trouble against the Ottawa Senators the last year and a half. But I would say it is much better than playing the Washington Capitals because I would consider that series an intentional walk from Washington Capitals' standpoint.
So the reason why I thought it would be interesting to play the Capitals is because their history, they've choked every single year. They've added a few pieces. Last year they had Oshie, they added him, didn't work. This year they added Shattenkirk, and we'll see how it works. But it's the same guys on the team, same whole beat. They've been this talented team for the past few years now. They finished in first last year as well. If you punch them in the face a couple times, you don't. The only reason I'm saying this is because you don't know what happens if you throw a game at them, you beat them in their barn 1-1, you're going back to Boston. It would make the series interesting. Yes, they are by far the most talented team, but as we all know. The Los Angeles Kings come in and they're an 8 seed. They've won the Stanley Cup. There are a lot of recent situations where obviously not the best team has won. They are by far the favorite in the East, with Pittsburgh being all banged up, no Letang. I was looking at their depth chart. They get a lot of key guys out. They still have Crosby, but it would have been interesting. If you had won one game in their barn and come back to Boston, it would have been very interesting. But, if you figure out this trap, which I think the Bruins can do, I think we'll be able to get out of this series. It's just going to be a real grinded out series.
Absolutely, and one of the things that everyone's been talking about is Guy Boucher's system and having that 1-3-1 defense and how much trouble it's given the Bruins over the past year and a half even. And we are no stranger to this. I know it was 2011, Dave, but when we won the Stanley Cup, we had to face a very tough Guy Boucher Tampa Bay Lightning team that took us to 7, and we had to completely grind out Game 7 for a 1-0 victory on a beautiful Nathan Horton goal that got passed to him right in front of the net. And that's what all the experts are saying you have to do to beat that system, is you just got to pass your way out of it, a lot of it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a much different team. I thought that Tampa Bay Lightning team was much more talented. This Senators team, besides Erik Karlsson, there are a lot of obviously Bobby Ryan got hurt earlier in the year, but there are a lot of hate to kind of diss these players, but they are system players. Like their first line is very solid, filled with a lot of maybe B+, A- players. Kyle Turris, Mike Hoffman, Mike Stone have all had nice years, but other than that, you are looking at the Bruins' third line from lines 2 through 4 that play 10 times harder with 10 times more fight. So, there are not a lot of big names on this team, and it's going to be interesting because they're system guys. They execute the system well. And the way to beat that, it's either you got to get the red line and in, which the Bruins do not want to do because you don't want to be dumping and chasing for the entire series. That's just going to wear you down. It's going to wear down your best players. So you have to find those gaps in the zone. And I'm sure, obviously, this team has been practicing this thing every single day, so it's going to be hard to find those gaps. And it's going to be interesting to see what Cassidy does to kind of attack those gaps and see if he can get anything out of them. But it's going to be interesting to see. We're going to be able to see a lot out of tonight. It's going to be low-scoring affairs. It's going to be, kind of boring hockey. There's not going to be like 6-5, 5-4 wins. It's going to be overtime, 2-1, 1-0 games.
I think it's going to be similar to the game we saw last week with the Senators, and there's not going to be a shootout that decides it. So are we going to be the team that still grinds it out with these guys in overtime and sneaks a goal in, rather than losing in a friggin' shootout, which it feels like we lose everyone. So let's talk about what everyone is talking about with this team. The injuries that we've faced with Torrey Krug and Brendan Carlo, and what that's bringing to our defensive line with Colin Miller and more importantly, Charlie McAvoy now looking like he's going to be a first-line defender, never playing an NHL game in his entire life. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and he's paired with one of the greatest defenders in Boston hockey history in Zdeno Chara. How do you think that's going to work out? And one of the things that everyone's fearing is if you're with that 1-3-1 style, if you poke one past McAvoy and the guy you got to have back is old man Chara, that's where you can run into some issues. But this guy, believe it or not, is big game tested. You can throw the North Dakota game in there from 2-3 weeks ago, Dave. But more importantly, you can throw that World Junior game in. That he was clearly the biggest stud on the ice, and that's as close as you can get to playing amongst men when you're at that level. The guy's 19, but he is somewhat battle-tested. 4 games in the AHL playoffs, mind you. Not NHL stuff, but I have faith in him, and I'm pushing my chips to the middle of the table on this kid. Sort of coming into the series the same way Torrey Krug came into the playoffs a number of years ago and had like 4 goals in 5 games.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say, very similar to Torrey Krug in that, they're not defensive defensemen. They're more offensively focused, which is a good thing because in this zone, you need to be thinking. It's going to be starting from the out. So whether it's Colin Miller, it's McAvoy, it's whoever, they're going to be carrying the puck out. They're going to be making the first pass, and it all starts with that. Once you get that first pass past them into the neutral zone, and you're into their zone, that is a success. And I think McAvoy excels at that. His vision, his stick handling, it's so good. It's it's like a younger version of Drew Doughty or Duncan Keith. He is so talented with the puck. It's going to help you in this series. Obviously he's going to probably make a mistake. We have to expect that. And he's not going to be, lights out Chara-esque in 2011 on defense. It's not going to, or Seidenberg. It's not going to be like that. He's going to be the guy that's going to help your power play, and he's going to help you make those key passes that you need to make to get through the neutral zone and into the offensive zone.
Absolutely, and let's talk a little bit about our buddy who may have influenced our playoff rankings in Brad Marchand. Does he have something to prove here coming up in this series? I mean, it was only 8 periods that he missed, but for a stupid reason. And you look at those games, I don't know if you beat the Capitals because we came out kind of flat in that game. You lost 3-1. Is Brad Marchand the guy that flips the script on that game? But that Ottawa Senators game, you looked like a Brad Marchand away, even in the shootout situation to win that game. And so you got to get on that guy because, you could have home ice right now against the Ottawa Senators. And like we were saying off air, Dave, I think the Boston Garden is going to be the tougher building to play in this playoff series because this team, this fan base is starved for playoff hockey, and they're
Uh,
starting to feel like real fans again. I mean, even the past few weeks, as things have been picking up, the Bruins fans have still been like, we've been through this before. The past 2 years, we know what it's like to get excited 2.5 weeks before the playoffs start and blow it on the last day. So
yeah.
now that we're in, this fan base is ready. And Ottawa, they play like 30 minutes out of Ottawa. They're like the Pistons playing in Auburn Hills. They should be, like you were saying, they should be like the Central Canada Senators, sort of like the New
Yeah.
England Patriots.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to figure that out. I mean, figure out the province you're in and call you that. If you're playing fucking 30 minutes outside of Ottawa, you should not be called the Ottawa Senators. Absolute joke. By the way, this Senators team, you are going to hate them by the end.
It should be a rivalry. That's what we've been saying, Dave. It should be a rivalry.
These guys had a rivalry.
They had no reason to beat you in your building on the last day last year. Granted, you didn't show up when you were supposed to and get into the playoffs. All you needed to do was win against the Ottawa Senators. You went up 1-0 and then gave up 6 unanswered, getting knocked out of the friggin' playoffs. You controlled your own destiny, and they came in like the 2011 Orioles playing for nothing and knocked you right out of the playoffs. And then this year, they pretty much stole your seed by coming into your building and beating you in a shootout, and then it flips the whole situation. Now you're going to their building. They could have been coming here. Yeah. You should hate this friggin' team. And they're bad for hockey. It is a boring friggin' style of hockey, especially with playoff hockey being the most exciting element in nature. And the fact that they kind of screw with that is just ridiculous. So you should hate this friggin' team.
Well, more incentive to hate this team. They have 3 guys. One in which you will remember very well, Alex Burrows, playing like buried on the third line in that system. He's such a system guy. As we know, Marchand and him has had a past. He's going to get ripped apart once Bruins fans figure out he's on the other side. They have Dion Phaneuf, who's arguably taking a hockey player's line, but he's probably one of the biggest pigeons in the league. No one fucking likes that guy. And then you have Derek Brassard, who has been on the opposing hand of many playoff teams you've faced in the past. So there are 3 villains on this team that you can really get at, especially Phaneuf. These guys are such a loser. And he's been in the league for so long, and they paid him all this money, and he's not that good. That's a guy you can expose. They do have Erik Karlsson, who's, like I said, he's one of the top 5 defensemen in the league, so that's going to be tough. And Craig Anderson playing with a chip on his shoulder with his wife having brain cancer. I think it was brain cancer, but it's that's going to be something. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to be playing well, so it is going to be low scoring. There's going to be, we're going to get some edginess too. I think we're going to see a little edgy an edgier but smarter Brad Marchand. I think in this series,
which is fine. I love that version of Brad Marchand. Just don't be nut tapping people. 2 games left in the season.
And you have to remember, you still have Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron on your top line with arguably a much better player playing along. If Pasternak comes up and plays with him, I know it's been Backes, but Backes has a ton of playoff experience. I know you're going to hate this, but Matt Bolesky was the leading scorer for Anaheim a few years ago in the playoffs.
Don't hate that at all. And another thing is, don't sleep on friggin' Dominic Moore. That guy's had some decent playoff runs in his heyday.
Absolutely, and it's going to be the worst thing that comes out of this series, John. The worst thing is you get Charlie McAvoy experience, you get Jacob Forsback-Karlsson experience, you get Colin Miller's experience. It's going to be great. Pasternak. It's going to be great experience for these guys, and it's going to be a fun series regardless. I think you should come out of the series with a win, though. I really do.
I do too, Dave. What do you constitute a failure? Mine is if you lose in 5. This is a total failure. The whole season, the whole season's a failure. I still give Cassidy all the credit in the world for going 18-7. I think once we got him on board and really changed up this team. I think you signed that guy long term. And long term doesn't mean you have to have him here for 11 years like you did with Claude. So, but he could be your next guy, and I think he is. So he's worked well with this team. I think he's interacting well with these players, and they're listening to him, and so that could be huge for a playoff run. And these guys, Dave, they kind of remind me a little bit of the 2012 Celtics, with a little bit left in the tank. Have been there before and could maybe spook a team that doesn't have the playoff experience like the Ottawa Senators in a
Yeah,
series like
yeah,
this.
yeah. I mean, it's all about beating the system, John. If you look at their 12 forwards, it is like a joke. Like their third and fourth line. First off, Chris Kelly is still playing third line right now in the NHL. Yeah, he's a good locker room guy, but he is not. He's nowhere near the average NHL player anymore. So it's like these guys are just fitting into the system, and they execute it perfectly. And it's going to be boring to watch, but if we could figure out the system right away and we pot a few, if we can get a 4-goal game in these first two games, scare them a little bit. I think kind of the sky's the limit for the Bruins, and they should win the series. It's not going to be a 5-game series in our favor. It's going to be, if we win the series, it's going to be 6 or 7 games.
I think just for their system, their style, you got to win tonight and get them on their heels because
Yeah.
their whole style seems like a prevent defense. And so if they can get a lead on you, if they can poke 2 goals in on you right away, like it's almost like they've already won the game. It's so tough to get past that. And if they can get a 1-2 game lead on you, they can just shut you down like a snake. Just with every breath you let out, they squeeze a little tighter. That's what we want. So I want to come in tonight and just steal game 1, and then just put them on their heels.
And you still have Tuukka Rask, who is still, you could argue that he's still trying to earn that contract. If he wins you, stands on his head, wins you, gets you to the Eastern Conference Finals, say, and that's pretty good because the guy has proved in the playoffs. He plays pretty well in the playoffs. When he gets hot. So 2013, he was pretty good in the playoffs, as we remembered, and we choked that game away. But if he gets hot, it's going to be good. But they also have a good goalie on the other side. It's not like you're playing James Reimer in the first round. You're playing, you're not going to be able to get 3 goals in like 10 minutes like we did in 2013. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. It's not the best matchup. It's going to be a little boring for the average hockey fan. There are plenty of other matchups in the playoffs that are more exciting than this. But once Boston gets rolling, I feel like, if we do win this first round, people are going to hop on the bandwagon because it is a fun team. You still have Marchand. You still have Bergeron. We could go on and on about Bergeron's career so far, but he's a proven winner. You still have Chara. You still have these core guys from a few years ago, David Krejci. You added Backus. It's going to be an interesting team, John, and I'm excited for it.
I am too, Dave. So, any closing thoughts here? If that wasn't your closing statement right there, what are you sort of hoping for with this team? I like I said, you got to steal game 1, and because that puts you in the driver's seat, and that's
Yeah.
and the Ottawa Senators, they're a bunch of control freaks. So if you can steal that from them, you can spook them enough to where you could even get game 2, but scare them into coming into Boston. Because I can guarantee you, I know it's a Canadian hockey team, but they're not the Maple Leafs. They're not the Canadians. They're a nice fan base, but they're not a crazy Canadian fan base like those guys. So you shouldn't be afraid of going in there and stealing a game or 2. But they should fear coming into Boston because, like we said earlier, this fan base is starved for hockey, and that building is going to be absolutely shaking once they show up on Monday. Patriots Day. What, like, of all days to come into, they haven't been in the playoffs for 3 friggin' years, and you have to come in and try and beat them on Patriots Day? Good friggin' luck.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, John, not to repeat myself for like the 3rd time, but you still have these core guys. You steal tonight's game. You're coming back to Boston, maybe 2-0, 1-1, and you got Patriots Day, and that's a chance to maybe go up 3-0 or 2-1 in the series. I mean, that's huge. So tonight's game is huge. It's going to be tough if you come out timid and you lose 2-1 tonight because that's what they're trying to do. That's what Ottawa's trying to do. Keep you under 2 goals, and they know they're going to win because they're going to get a couple, grinded out goals. So I can't wait. I'm so freaking happy we have playoff hockey back. It seems like it's been like a decade, like a couple decades. I know that's very spoiled of me to
Very
say,
spoiled, but it's true. It's absolutely true.
It's just so hard watching, teams go deep in the NHL playoffs. It's like, wow, imagine being, a fan of the Blackhawks or those teams. It's so special. It's such a special sport in the postseason. So I can't wait. I know you can't wait. And let's get game 1 tonight.
Yeah, this is big. My thing, and I'm pretty sure I said it earlier. Don't go down by 2 goals in any situation in this friggin' series. When they score, get right back on the horse and prevent them from going up 2, because their style will smother you. It's going to be real tough for you to be able to get back if they go up 2, because that style just can suffocate you. So
yeah.
So Dave, that's what I want. Steal tonight. Don't get game 2. Get them tonight. You're capable of it. You've lost what? The last 5 games against this friggin' team? Meaningful games against this team. So this is your new rival. Treat them like that. Just like in 2011, your Canadian series. Granted, there's a lot more history there with those 2 teams, but those were 2 teams that hated each other, and it was a great 7-game series. I think that's what we're looking at here in this series. And the fact that we hate this style, and I know these players hate this team, I think despite that system, Dave, I think it's going to be good hockey, good playoff hockey. We have it back in Boston again. That's about it for us. Dave, do you have any, you want to sign off with anything?
Nope. Fuck yeah. Can't wait.
Can't wait. All right, guys, we're going to be doing this a lot this postseason. So pregame episodes, postgame episodes, just quick episodes to get you guys tuned in on all things playoffs here in Boston. Believe it or not, the Boston Celtics look like they're going to close the season as the number 1 seed in the NBA. Believe it or not, one of the most inflated 1 seeds of all time in sports. So, hey, that means if you make it a couple rounds, you get to have the Cleveland Cavaliers come here for games 1 and 2. Believe it or not. So, if you want to have any chance of winning that series, that's what has to happen. But tonight, 7 o'clock, we have the Ottawa Senators. We're playing in their building. That's a game we have to steal. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. And most importantly, rest in peace, Jay Giles. Been very important to this fan base, this friendship. A lot of great memories had to that guy's music. So we're going to play you out with some Jay Giles here. We played Jim with some Jay Giles. Rest in peace, Jay Giles. Go Bruins. See you, Dave.
Yeah.
That was great.